welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Growing Your Family Tree. This is part of our Family Heritage Festival. So the programs will be happening through tomorrow. So definitely join us for those programs. I'll be providing the link down in the question or the chat box here shortly. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to one of our library staff members, Ms. Carmen here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam and kick it over.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Growing Your Family Tree. My name is Carmen Negron. I'm a librarian at the John F. Germany Library, and I work in the Florida History and Genealogy Library located there. First, we'd like to give a book shout out to Design Your Family Tree by Amy Jane Leavitt. This book will give you loads of tips on how you can share your family history gems with the masses, using timelines, autobiographies, scrapbooks, cookbooks, family websites, and other methods. So after you watch this presentation, you definitely want to check this book out because it's going to help give you ideas on how to do that. You can find this book as a physical book available for checkout through curbside services in our catalog, and also as an ebook on Overdrive and Libby. So please check out our website at hcplc.org to get started. So what is a family tree? A family tree is a chart that shows who your ancestors are. Family trees are used when people are practicing genealogy. Genealogy is the study of your family history or ancestry. So if you're trying to find out who your grandparents are, or your great-great-grandparents, or where they came from, you're doing genealogy, and a family tree might be useful. This picture here is what a traditional family tree looks like. They're called family trees because they're usually illustrated that way, with different sets of grandparents as the branches and descendants, that's you, as the trunk of the tree. As you discover more about your ancestors and your family, you might want to start thinking about how you're going to represent them. You have a lot of options because there are many different types of family trees, and you can choose to represent your family in any way that will best represent them. You can just show your parents and their parents, or you can include your step-parents or biological parents. And you can even also include your siblings and cousins. It's all up to you. Just remember that your family history is made up of all your family members, those you share genes with and those you don't. That's why sometimes they refer to bloodlines and love lines. So you can trace either or. So why create a family tree? The main reason is to learn about your family, to find out about your grandparents' childhood, or find out what was your mom's favorite toy. And as you're learning about your family, you also get to learn about the past, because genealogy is history. As you're trying to discover who your ancestors are, you're going to have to find out a lot about what their lives were like. Perhaps your ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War, or took part in the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. While you're finding out all about your ancestors, you're going to be learning a lot about the history of our country and our world. So spending some time reading history books about the times and places when your ancestors were alive, that will definitely help you to better understand them and their world. And the final reason to create a family tree is just for fun, because it's interesting to find different ways to represent your family, such as this mobile family tree, The important thing is to remember that when you're creating a family tree, you want to be accurate and you always want to use the correct information. So what kinds of information do you need to put together your family tree? Well, the most important information that you want to have for every person in your family tree is information about their birth, marriage, and death. These are called vital statistics, and they can help you build a picture of each individual. The word vital has two meanings, both of which apply to our needs in genealogy: affecting life and important. And even though it's interesting to see data and statistics for long times in history, what we really want are just the vital statistics of one person, your ancestor. As one of the handouts is little cards that you can cut out and use to keep track of your family members, and just fill in the information for each person in your family tree as you discover it. The best place to find the vital statistics information that you need is to find primary sources. Primary sources are those documents that were created at the same time the event happened, like birth certificates, which are given to parents when their babies are born, death certificates, which are given to family members when somebody passes away, and marriage certificates that are issued when two people get married. There are other types of primary sources, and these will always be your best source of information. You can also use secondary sources, which are documents that talk about events that took place somewhere else or to someone else. These can be census reports, because sometimes it wasn't the people that lived in the house who gave the information. Sometimes it was their neighbors or a family member who might not know everyone who lived there. Other kinds of secondary sources are history books, newspaper articles, and obituaries. These are all places where you can learn more information about your ancestors, as long as you keep in mind that they aren't always accurate. So where do you find information first? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to talk to your parents and your grandparents about their lives growing up. And one of the handouts is a list of questions that you can use to guide your conversation with them. You can also ask to see their birth certificates and marriage certificates so that you can know that you have not only accurate but certified information for your family trees. You can also look at picture albums with them and ask them about the people in them. And you can even ask them if there are any items that have been in the family for a long time. All of these are ways to learn more about your family history. And if there are any facts that they aren't sure about, you can use your library. We have several library databases available for free, and they're all available from your home with a library card. The most popular is Ancestry Library Edition, which you can normally only use from the library, but until the end of the year, December 31st, 2020, you can access it from home by just using your library card. And it's very easy to search these databases. As you can see, once you click over to Ancestry Library from the library's website, you can just click on the green Begin Searching Here button and type in your family member's name, and you can find all sorts of information. I've searched for my grandfather, Agustin Gonzalez, and look, I have lots of records that I found right on the first search screen. However, you have to be careful because lots of people have the same name. And you want to make sure that the information you include in your family tree is accurate. Now, all these records are about Agustin Gonzalez, but only one of them is my actual grandfather, and that's this last one with the census right there at the top. So just always make sure to read the documents carefully to make sure that they're accurate and they're your actual ancestor. And the most important thing you want to do when you're doing your family research is you want to write everything down. Have a special notebook just for your genealogy and family history research. And always remember, a good detective always has evidence. And when you're investigating your family history, your documents are your evidence. So keep track of them. You can see a sample of how you can fill out a form that I included in the handouts is to keep track of your research. And even though there's individual lines, you can fill it out any way you like, as long as you have all the vital information that you need to remember where you looked for it and what you found. Don't forget, if you don't have a printer at home, we're offering curbside services at the library, so you can print them at the library for free. And don't forget to get creative. You don't have to use a traditional family tree to represent your family. Any way you can think of representing them, go ahead, as long as the information you use is accurate. You can create a family board with their pictures, or you can draw a map of all the places your ancestors are from. It doesn't have to be a world map like this one. It can just be a map of the United States or just South America, or any map that you best feel represents your family's history.
All right, thank you so much, Carmen. That was amazing. So go ahead and drop those questions in the question section of our chat box. Carmen is here and ready to answer them. So while we are waiting for the questions roll, Carmen, was there anything else, any other last little bits that you wanted to include, anything like that?
Well, there was a lot that I wanted to include, but as an introduction, I thought let's best to keep it simple. One thing I do want to do is show them how to find the databases on the library website. And I don't know if you guys can see here we are, okay. And I'm glad we have time to see this. So this is the library's website, hcplc.org. And when you want to find any of our databases, you just click right here in Learning and Research, and that'll take you over to a few different categories that we have. Here, as you can see, is one that says Genealogy and History, and that's the one you're going to want to take to access all of our genealogical research databases. So as you can see here, we have the four main ones that I mentioned in the PowerPoint. The most popular one that everyone uses is Ancestry Library, but you'll find different kinds of information in all the different databases. And you want to try them all and see what different information you find from one or the other. But I'm just gonna click here, and I'm inside the library right now, so it didn't do it, but you're at home, it's gonna give you a little pop-up. It's gonna ask for your library card and PIN number, and if you need help finding that information, feel free to call us at our phone number, 813-273-3652, and we'll help you get that. And don't forget, you can use your Hall Pass also to log on to databases.
Okay, we have one comment come in through here. Somebody said, good one. It's a good idea to draw a map. Absolutely. That is a really good tip there. Let's
Thank you.
see what else we got here. We have someone asking, what other kinds of records can we use to do research?
Okay, so pretty much if you think about everything you need to or your parents need to get through their daily lives. Like if you live in an apartment, you have a lease, or if you have a house, you might have property taxes. So you have to think back. Your ancestors needed the same type of documents. So you can look through court documents, you can look for wills to see, when they left different properties to each other when their parents passed away. They would leave a will and to leave the property to their children, and that's a way that you can find out information about your ancestors. Also, prison records and other kind of court records. And of course, I mentioned the newspaper articles. They didn't have Facebook or Twitter, any of that. So a lot of the times they would publish social events in the newspaper. So if you go through the newspaper at a time when your grandparents were alive, your great-great-grandparents, you might be able to see that they went to a party and it'll be listed, and it'll have interesting things that they may have done at the party, like maybe they sang a song, and you can find interesting things like that in the newspaper.
Awesome, thank you so much. And we had another question roll in here. How can the census help with finding ancestors?
Okay, so the census can help find ancestors because, well, first of all, what is the census? The census is a count that a country does to see who lives in that country. So here in the United States, we do it every 10 years. We just finished counting for 2020 last week. So every 10 years, census takers go around everyone's houses and they find out who lives there and takes up that information. So in the past, and right now we only have access up to 1940 census, census taker would come to the house with a form and they would talk to someone in the household, anyone, and they would write down everyone who lived there, their ages, if they went to school, if they could read or write, if what kind of job did they do? Was it a man or a woman? How old were they? So this is really a great way of finding who lived in your ancestors' household. And sometimes you'll find relatives that you can't find in other ways because um, either they moved far away and didn't leave any documents in the area, or they passed away, and this would be the only way that you would know that they lived with that family member, or maybe they're just a cousin that's just visiting, and you never would have known that that cousin was related to you unless they happened to be there the day the census takers came by. And it can just open up different avenues for more people to research in the traditional databases.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, this is a good question. Do you have to create an account to use Ancestry Library?
No. You just log into it with your library card, like I said. Once you click on the Ancestry Library logo from the library website, you're not gonna be allowed even to create an account. But the negative part of that is that you can't create a family tree on the website using the Ancestry Library database. If you want to create your own digital online family tree, you'll have to go to the normal Ancestry.com website and sign up for a free account, and that way you can use that feature. So no, you don't have to sign to create an account to use the Ancestry Library account, but you might want to if you want to create a digital family tree.
Okay, and just to clarify, so there's the regular ancestry.com that you would go to outside of the library, and then there's
Yes.
Ancestry Library that you have to access using the library's website, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so let's see what else we got. Carmen, do you mind hopping back over to that final slide there just so we can put our contact info back up?
Yes, of course.
And it looks like we got a good question. We got a good question to end on here. What is the purpose of learning about genealogy?
The purpose is different for every person. Some people just want to have a way to connect with the past. If you're studying a specific time period, you might want to see, well, where were my ancestors while that was happening? And you might do genealogy to find out. You might also just might be curious. That's how I came into it. I was just wondering, like, who were my great grandparents? We didn't have a lot of written documents in my family, so I went searching to find out that information that I didn't know. I just knew my grandfather, and that was it. So I wanted to know more. So if you're curious about the past or your family, that's why you want to study genealogy. And sometimes it's just cool to see what happened in the past. I would love to have some wonderful anecdote of something super cool that I found out, but unfortunately, my ancestors are all farmers from Puerto Rico for 200 years. And in a way, that's cool in and of itself, because I know my parents farmed when I was a kid, and it's kind of nice to know that that is just a tradition that has happened for 2 centuries in the same place. And I feel more connected now to my parents just alone, just by knowing that what they taught me is something that they learned and everyone else has been learning for centuries in Puerto Rico. And so it's fun to connect with the past that way when you're living in a city.
That's a good answer. And just to add on to yours, I'll add my own personal anecdote. Half of my family comes from Cuba, and it's always been kind of murky, like how that happened. Like I knew, they came after the revolution, and it seemed very linear to me. Like they were in Cuba and then they were in Tampa, and here we go. And I found out through looking, like one day I was like, well, we have all of these resources. Let me just poke around and see. Let me just poke around. And I found out that my grandfather actually lived in Colombia for a little bit, because we saw the plane ticket on, I think it was Ancestry, the plane ticket from Colombia to New York City. And I knew that they lived up north for a while because that's where my dad was born. And then he lived in South Carolina. He lived in Georgia. Like I found out like all of these things that I had no idea.
They were travelers.
The chance to tell me in his lifetime. And then I find out after the fact that, he lived in all these different places, and, it's just really interesting and kind of makes sense why I love to travel so much, because he obviously loves to travel too. So it's just nice to have that connection, like maybe after they pass and you don't get a chance to ask them the questions, it's nice to kind of go back and figure it out yourself, like, that's cool. So that's my own little personal anecdote. All right, so it looks like everybody got their questions in. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Carmen, for this wonderful presentation. Carmen did provide us with our contact information. She mentioned that phone number before. So if you have any questions, any library questions, anything like that, there's our contact information. Also, Family Heritage Festival is happening tomorrow. So make sure that you check out any of the other programs we have happening. We did put that link into our chat box. And library genealogy resources. Carmen here was able to show you how to access those, so definitely go back and visit them. And once again, thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you. And thank you all for attending.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a good day.